Hey everybody, it's Coach Jason. Hope you're all doing well. I want to talk about peaking. That's what I want to talk about today, peaking or tapering. Okay, there's so many different philosophies on it. I want to give you my take on it, and see what you think. And I'd love to get your feedback as well. Okay, I'm going to read off of some of the stuff, my research, and then I'm going to just kind of go into unfiltered experience. So, number one, to me, there's no such thing as a magic peak. Okay. Tapering, or a magic taper, I should say. It follows a similar periodization principles, going up as it does going down. What I mean by that is when you're training and you're breaking things down, or I encourage you to break things down if you're a coach or an athlete, into 3 or 4 week blocks. Introduce a new training stimuli each block, whether it be increasing volume or increasing intensity or changing something else in the training. The body needs about 21 to 28 days to adapt to a certain stimuli of training, okay? Whether it be going up or going back down. Going back down, what I mean is essentially, let's say you run 80 miles a week for 14 weeks of a 12 weeks of a 15-week season. My philosophy when it comes to peaking is to drop the volume down significantly and hold it there for 3 weeks instead of going from 80 for 12 weeks and then going 70, 60, 50, 40, where you're going to be changing something every week. That's a little bit of a drastic taper. In some cases it might work, but that said, you're changing the stimuli every single week, so the body's not getting a chance to adapt to what you did the week before. So instead of going 80, you could drop it down to 60 and hold it there for 3 weeks. Give the body a chance to adapt. That way you can lower the volume of the workouts and while maintaining the intensity. Okay, what I encourage you to avoid is lowering the volume and increasing intensity at the same time. It could be a recipe for disaster. So, and I've seen it, I've experienced it, and it's something I highly encourage you to consider avoiding. But that said, how you train and how you train your athletes is completely up to you. But this is speaking from 2 decades of experience. Okay. Essentially, the goal is to elicit, responses that are going to improve the athlete's performance in training or races, right? Especially the important ones. So you want to be at your best when it counts the most, and that's why I encourage periodization, so that you're not doing too much too soon, and essentially at your best 4 to 6 weeks before you want your athletes to be at their best, or you at your best. So that's why 3 or 4 week blocks are good to follow, because that way you can catch your biggest races while you're still on the upswing or maintaining the fitness. Okay. Examples, of this is muscle glycogen, concentration, VO2 max endurance. This is my training book. Muscular endurance, maximal power output, stuff like that. Because the ultimate goal is to maintain the physiological adaptations during your previous training blocks, right? While also diminishing any potentially negative impacts of the training, fatigue, things like that, injury. And that's why I said timing and periodization is key. Okay, so let's say you have a 16-week block, 16-week season, you could do 4 4-week blocks. Or if you have a 15-week season, you could do 5 3-week blocks. And each block, you're adapting to a new stimuli. Okay, while at the same time putting yourself in a position, or putting your athletes in a position to run well when it counts the most. Okay. And now here's some scientific principles. An overall taper, you should not go under 70% of your optimal training volume. So if you were training at 80, right, 80 miles, you should not go any under 70% of that. So you shouldn't go under 56 miles per week. Okay. With regards to that, if you go from 80 to 56, you can hold it there. Instead of going 80, 70, 60, or 56 or something like that. It's just my way of thinking about it, but again, you do what you want to do. So again, don't go under 70% of your optimal training volume or training load. 70%, and the reason why it's 70%, and studies have shown this, and research has shown us, 70% is the number or the threshold needed to maintain your VO2 max increases that have happened in your recent training. And it's also important to not, like I said this before, it's important to not decrease volume and increase intensity significantly. Okay, during a taper. You have to be careful. You gotta be careful. You can cut down the volume, but you keep the intensity. Okay. You don't have to especially the last week, and that's why I recommend a 3-week taper instead of going from 80 to 50. You might throw your body completely out of whack if you're going to do a 7 to 10 day drastic taper. Same principles going down. Your body needs a chance to adapt to a taper as it does an increase. Okay. The last thing I want to point out is maintaining the same intensity in training as pre-taper as you would during your pre-taper cycle, the first 12 weeks, to maintain your VO2 max short and long-term endurance performance. So again, the goal is to maintain the same intensity, like I said before. Drop the volume, keep the intensity. Okay, that way your body is not kind of all off rhythm. Okay, so you maintain the intensity or the appropriate intensity. Okay, and I'm going to put some videos down below of 1 mile time trial and how to set the appropriate training paces, because you have 10 athletes. Not everybody's going to be training at the same pace unless they all run a 5-minute mile or a 4:30 mile. Then you can put them in a similar ballpark, but there will be some individualized components of training that everybody needs. Somebody might need a little bit more volume, somebody might need a little bit less. But the same token, if they're all training in their appropriate zones, then you will be able to appropriately help them taper when it counts the most. You don't want 4:30 milers training with 4-minute milers, or 5-minute milers training with 4:30, or 7-minute milers training with 6-minute milers. Okay, the recovery component's not going to be the same. Okay, and keep in mind, okay, like I said before, there's no magic peak. Okay, if you're doing the right things all along the way, you're not going to need to make a magic peak or hope for some magic peak or some change in your training. If you're doing the right things all along, then you will be in a position to maximize the benefit when it counts the most. Okay, it's essentially a 4 to 6 week of block of peak racing fitness. Okay, and you want to catch it when it counts the most. That's why periodization or blocks of training, 3 to 4 week blocks, is important, because it allows you to set things up and help put you or your athletes in a position to maximize or to take advantage of that. Okay, so that's my take on peaking. Let me know what you think, and take a look at my training, my training cycles, and I'll put fully detailed training programs down below for 5Ks and marathons, just so you can take a look and see how I break things down. And it's all detailed, 12 to 16 weeks, by the day, by the week, by the month, so you can see for yourself. Okay. If you enjoyed this, please hit the thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I want to make this into one of the best running channels and the most comprehensively detailed running channels out there. And I am a USATF certified track and field coach. You'll see the credential in my YouTube profile. I'm also a Wharton certified musculoskeletal and flexibility therapist. So my focus is to help athletes run faster and keep them healthy at the same time. Okay, so you can continue to keep progressing along the way. So with that said, be safe out there. Train hard, train smart, adapt, improvise, overcome, and I will talk to you next time.